Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so happy here to have you today. It's such a beautiful day, as is every day. So we have Brett Swarts with us, and I like to look for a quote that fits what they're going to talk about. This is enjoy the many forms of abundance. Abundance isn't just stuff, it's beauty and joy and love. And as far as I'm concerned, and money. So, uh, whatever we are waiting for, peace of mind, contentment, grace, the inner awareness of simple abundance, it will surely come to us, but only when we are ready to receive it with an open and grateful heart. And that's by Sarah Ban Breathnach. And I found this interesting article about retirement. And one of the things most people are most interested in is retiring. And you use this trick. It's called trick. So the definition of trick. Use the acronym TRIC for better retirement planning. So T is for taxes. Remember that money in 401ks and traditional IRAs must be withdrawn under certain IRS rules and will be taxed as ordinary income. Discuss with your accountant. And remember, Roth conversions, you can do backdoors on Roth conversions and roll them into your traditional IRAs into your Roth accounts, and you should speak to your accountant about how you could do that and when you could do that so that you don't put yourself in a higher tax bracket. R is for risk tolerance. So when you're talking to your accountant, know what your tolerance is. I is for investment mix. So you should study all the mixes out there. Brett is going to bring one of them to us today to think about, and then have that conversation again about if this is the right thing for you to do. And if you have a financial planner, that is the person you should be working with. C is for cost. Know exactly your advisors and accountant managers, how they're compensated, including fees, commissions, whether by percentage or retainer, and what the fees are charged by investment vehicles themselves, such as mutual funds. And K is for knowledge, gaps. So understand what you don't know about retirement planning and consider hiring experienced professionals who know what the difficulties and obstacles are and how to handle them. Like we have Mark Garlett here today, who is a trust attorney. He will understand that. He will understand that for many reasons. And one of them is he is also a real estate investor. So when you're in real estate and you're doing your retirement, you need to know whether you should have that in your Roth account, your traditional account, or in your name. So here we go, because we got great Brett with us. I met Brett a few years ago, and he is a pretty amazing fellow. He's an entrepreneur, founder of Capital Gain Tax Solutions, which is what he's going to talk about today. He serves as Deferred Sales Trust trustee, and a trustee is very important in your life. Everybody should have a trustee, somebody they trust. He's an author of a best-selling book, Success. He's a certified coach. Is that the name of your book, Brett? Success? And he brings a unique approach to exit planning using DSTs, which are, and I always forget this, I'm sorry, so we'll get to that. He's the founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions. He leads a dedicated team in helping a wide range of clients create and preserve wealth through strategic real estate, securities, and business investments. His specialty is Deferred Sales Trust. That's what the DST stands for. A potent capital gains tax deferral strategy. Throughout his career, he has closed over $500 million in real estate brokerage and deferred sales trust transactions. In addition, his direct work with clients, he hosts the Capital Gains Tax Solution and Expert CRE Secret podcast, where he interviews industry leaders on wealth management, real estate business growth, and tax strategies. He's a licensed real estate California broker. His skill set spans various sectors of real estate. Like me, he's got a lot of knowledge, and it's always good to talk to people with lots of knowledge. He's a best-selling author of Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan and a sought-after speaker at professional events. And we're so lucky that he is here with us today. His mission is to unlock capital gains, to unleash freedom and impact for high net worth individuals and their trusted advisors. He and his team do this by guiding clients and advisors on how to create and execute deferred sales trust. His ultimate goal is to help his clients make an impact with their wealth for their families and communities. And may I present to you the best-selling author of Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan, Brett Swarts. So welcome, Brett, and please take it away.
Thank you, Peggy. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Peggy, and thank you for the warm introduction. It is great to be with everyone today. I am going to share my screen since we are going to jam for 20 minutes, and then we're going to answer questions. And so the good news is it's being recorded. So if I do talk fast, which sometimes I tend to do, though, it tells me that, realize that you can replay it or turn down the speed if you can dial that in. And so here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions, we unlock capital gains to not only unlock, but multiply freedom and impact. And also unlock, and this different for different people. Different people have different reasons for freedom and impact, and we're gonna dive in that as we go. This is just an actual live deal. I just like to bring up actual deals that are happening now. So I'm just going to kick it off with a story, okay? And imagine a mom, and this mom's working for a real estate company, and this mom has a couple kids, and now she's a single mom, and so she's in a tough situation, and in that sense that dad's not around as much. However, she's working this company, and this company's a real estate company that is a really cool online service, and this company's exploded in value, and now she's about to, since she was an early employee of the company, she has stock, and that stock has exploded in value. Well, she's about to exit this position of $35 million. Wow, what an incredible event. But she has a $7 million capital gains tax, right? And so she's never built a capital gains tax exit plan. She helped the founder build the company, and she got the stock in the company. But now she's facing this massive capital gains tax. And so she's also facing what's called an estate tax issue, right? Because her net worth is now above those exemption amounts, especially as a single mom. And so she's looking for ways to be a steward with the wealth, to be able to help her kids out in a meaningful way, take care of her mom who sacrificed and gave so much, but also for diversification, okay? And so we are helping her right now. It hasn't closed yet, but this is a live deal that she's just blown away because she was facing huge capital gains tax and also wanted an opportunity to eliminate that estate tax, okay? And so that's really the key, when it comes to meaning and impact, freedom and impact. What does that mean for you? And I want you to be thinking about that as we go through this wealth exercise with capital gains tax tonight. We're going to be covering a little bit about myself in the background. I'll keep it really brief because Peggy did such a good job. We're going to also encourage you to help you clarify your tax flow, cash flow, and debt flow mindset. Okay, we believe you need all three to really succeed, especially in today's marketplace. We're going to talk about the big problem most baby boomers are facing, and most people who own highly appreciated real estate, businesses, or cryptocurrency. The solution that we believe is amazing called the Deferred Sales Trust, and how this whole thing works, okay? Then we're going to lay out just a rough little plan if you want to start down the process. We're going to talk about some client success stories, and then we're going to talk a little bit of our core values in our story if we have time. So really quick, I live in now St. Augustine, Florida, by way of Taxifornia about a year and a half ago. We left California. We love California. We always will, but we spent our whole lives there growing up. In fact, I grew up in the real estate industry, building houses with my dad and my mom in the Bay Area. area, mostly Fremont, Mission, San Jose, Silicon Valley. So I've always had real estate in the blood, always had the entrepreneurship kind of in the blood, and just kind of the hands-on, be able to build wealth. And fast forward, I was able to work at a company called Marcus and Millichap. My brother and I were the first to graduate from college, and on both sides of the family. And so instead of working just hard with the muscles, we started to work more with the mind. And part of that, I help people buy and sell multifamily properties in 2006. But who remembers in 2006? Quickly after that, something happened. The market started to do this, right? And it kind of crashed in a big way. And so I saw friends, family, and clients lose half or everything. And I was newly married, my first baby on the way, which is my daughter, Ava, the oldest one there. And we didn't know what to do. My wife and I were like, what are we going to do? And we're like, well, we do what every kind of side hustle entrepreneur does. You get a side hustle. And that was Cheesecake Factory for me. And so nights and weekends, I'd work Cheesecake Factory. And by days, I'd negotiate with banks and help my clients work through their multifamily properties, try to hold on to them. Okay. And so this was the opposite of capital gains. This was like big losses. And so people were being crushed. So while they're going through that, I'm trying to figure out a way to like make it in the business, survive. And I'm feeling scared and frustrated. And guess what happened? While I was still working at Cheesecake Factory, Marcus and Millichap, a gentleman came in to speak about something called a Deferred Sales Trust. Now, we thought we were the multifamily or commercial real estate 1031 ninjas. Like we thought we were the Navy SEALs in the business. Marcus and Millichap is one of the most respected commercial real estate firms in the country for transactions. But guess what? We were humbled, and so were our clients. And so we were kind of open for whatever would come our way for an opportunity to solve that. And so we went on to learn that the Deferred Sales Trust is like Netflix to the Blockbuster method of 1031. And we thought it was too good to be true. We thought we would have known about it. You know, our CPAs would have known about it. Our clients would have known about it. But we were humbled enough to learn, and hopefully to give you a little bit of that in this kind of course tonight over the next 14 minutes and 56 seconds. And so, yeah, so I'm a basketball fan too. So if you love basketball, we're going to go on great. I played basketball in college. At one point, I could dunk a basketball. I'm a 6-foot white guy who could dunk at one point. Pretty cool. I love basketball. So I paid for college, which was cool. And fast forward, I was able to retire from the Cheesecake Factory. After I learned about the Deferred Sales Trust, I grew my business. We have 5 kids and also lifelong 49er fan. So if you're a 49er fan, it's one thing I'll never leave California, 49er fan forever. Okay, so love that. Okay, all right. So what we do is we help people defer capital gains tax and eliminate estate tax, okay? Not using a 1031 exchange, which we call Blockbuster, okay? We also help people to unlock a wealth and lifestyle timing, which is so crucial, right? To be able to do both. But also you might want to be an entrepreneur. We don't take that away. We don't force you to have to be retired. You can also be an entrepreneur. You can be passive or active. And partly how we do this is we build a dream team, kind of like a mini family office, which oftentimes involves and brings in groups like Amazing Nest Egg Builder, right? And collectively as a team, we're helping to form a larger team to execute a business plan for this trust that helps you to defer the tax. Because how many of you know it's not just about cash flow, it's about tax flow. And in fact, it's even more about tax flow because of the $35 trillion, we'll talk about that more in a minute, of debt that the US government has. And then we help you invest the wealth and pass on your wealth legacy to the next generation. So for those, by the way, who might be those that are raising capital, we say don't raise, we say unlock capital. Don't raise, unlock capital. We're going to teach you how to do that tonight. For those who are in partnerships and you want to separate from the partner, we say, well, each of you go your separate way and each have your own trust to defer the tax. You don't have to go for the whole entity like a 1031 into the next deal. For those who have huge estate tax, we go, look, Brett, I don't want to buy a bunch of life insurance. I don't want to have to give it all away to charity. And I don't have that many kids to gift it away. I've run out of time. Well, we can eliminate that estate tax in one day in one sale with the DST 2.0 without any charity, life insurance, or gifting required. And we can also help you diversify into any asset of any kind. So whether you're selling a business, real estate, cryptocurrency, stock, primary home, artwork, collectible, as long as you have $1 million net proceeds and $1 million gain, you can not only sell that, but once the funds, typically like a place called Charles Schwab, you can invest it into any asset of any kind. You can truly diversify, dollar cost average. You can go to stocks, bonds, mutual funds, cryptocurrency, real estate, business ventures, lending. You can diversify, truly diversify not only the asset class, but also the timing of the investment. Unlike the 1031 exchange, which is going to force you into a single asset class in a small period of time. You can also get a new depreciation schedule. This is one of the best kept secrets with the trust, and that you can partner with the trust So you're not just deferring tax and just, but you're also being able to partner with the trust to grow your wealth. So what's the big problem? Let's lay it out here for everybody. It's this $35 trillion of debt. The government has a spending problem, which means we all have a tax problem, okay? And it's massive, okay? It's a massive amount of debt and it's only growing. On the other side, there's what we call the reverse Tea Party going on right now. You might not have known this, but there's this group called the baby boomers. There's about 77 million in the US alone estimation, and about 10,000 of them are turning 65 every day. And approximately them and a few others, it's going to be about $84 trillion is the estimation from Marcus & Millichap and American Bankers Association that's going to transfer in the next about 18 years that's remaining. Okay, so think about that. 240 years ago, we left or we broke away from the powers that be over taxation without representation or enough rights. And then America has amassed perhaps the biggest wealth in the history of the planet. And it's going to transfer in just 18 years. And in fact, the total net worth of all U.S. assets is commercial real estate, private equity, and primary homes, which represent 50% of the total net worth. Okay, so the question is, will the wealth be in the hands of the people or the hands of the government? Now, one thing we can all probably agree is no matter what side you vote for, the government's not great at spending the money in an efficient way. However, if we can defer that tax and it could build houses, attainable workforce housing, if it could diversify and create businesses or create more jobs and more tax revenue, that can be a win-win, right? And so that's part of what we're about, this 84 trillion on this transfer. We believe we're like, the reverse, the fighters for keeping the wealth with the people to do great things, okay? And the 1031 exchange, it's blockbuster. It just doesn't work for anything but investment real estate, okay? It's not great because you have to put it in the same asset class in the same time. It also doesn't solve the stepped up basis. The 1031 doesn't solve the estate tax, okay? Whereas ours will do that, okay? So here's the next step that I want you to be thinking about. Before you do anything, I need to encourage you to clarify your tax flow, cash flow, and debt flow vision. The Deferred Sales Trust is the only proven legal, flexible strategy that gives you the leverage over your cash flow, debt flow, and tax flow. Who are the people in trouble right now? They're the people who had too much debt and it's reset. They're the people that overpay for properties in 1031s or just overpay for properties in general. They are the people that don't have enough cash flow or liquidity. Right. And part of they don't have it is because they feel trapped between these three things. Most people are investing in one single strategy or maybe two strategies, cash flow, maybe some tax flow, but it's not transformational with timing and debt flow, which is what we give you a chance to get out of debt, capital gains tax deferred, diversified, liquid, and timing is on your side. And so here's the big question for everyone watching this tonight is how will your capital gains tax exit multiply your freedom and impact? And if your exit plan doesn't secure your freedom from what you're selling while giving you what you want in cash flow, debt flow, and tax flow efficiency, its value drops like a rock. Okay. And that's the key. You can't just have a one-dimensional plan when you exit. You must have a plan that gives you flexibility, that maximizes cash flow, debt flow, and tax flow with timing, okay? And so we don't have too much time to go into all of these things, but we're going to help you build this here on our team. We're going to give you some secrets tonight. So as a quick little summary of what we're solving for, we're going to help you to defer up to 100% of your capital gains taxes, okay, to keep an additional 25 to 50% of your proceeds. If you use the DST Plus, we can eliminate that estate tax. The estate tax exemptions are dropping in 2026. To about 6 to 7 million single or 12 to 14 million married. Okay, so you have to be aware of that. We can eliminate that estate tax on the sale of an asset. The Deferred Sales Trust, quickly for the legal thing, if you're curious about this, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of closes, close to 30-year track record, billions and billions and billions of gross assets sold over the years. And here's the most important thing, over 29 no change IRS audits. Not a single change. We are batting 1,000. Okay. It's a perfect legal track record. Okay. Perfect. It's the most vetted, perfect legal track record tax strategy you've never heard of. This is what we say, right? Most people get it confused with a Delaware statutory trust. This is not. This is a deferred sales trust. A Delaware is just another form of a 1031 exchange. Okay. Moving on, you can also consolidate every asset into one DST by exchanging ownership for a promissory notes. Okay. This is how we're going to explain this in a minute. But let's say Peggy had a business sale for 15 million and she had real estate for 5 million. And she had cryptocurrency for 5 million and a primary home for 2.5 million, and on and on and on. She can consolidate as she exit multiple assets into one trust, pay off all of her debt, be able to diversify the wealth, consolidate that wealth into one trust, sometimes two if she's over the estate tax exemption amounts. We also have the best 1031 exit plan that allows you to save a failing 1031 exchange. Really important. Friends don't let friends do a 1031 without having a backup plan, okay, without having to take up any of your 3 positions. And so what part of the solution is to organize all of your equity from your exits into 1 or 2 trusts, defer the capital gains tax and or eliminate the estate tax. By the way, here's some of the benefits of this too. Lifetime audit defense. There's no additional charge, the one-time charge up front that you pay. We'll talk about ongoing fees here in a minute with the trustee, but there's lifetime audit defense. Okay, perfect legal track record that they cover. You can also have, with the DST 1.0, flexible adjustable promissory note. You might need more income right now and less income later, or vice versa. You have a dedicated transaction coordinator, 24/7 access to view the funds online. Typically, at a place like Charles Schwab is where the funds go to. We work with certified financial planners, some of the best in the country. You also have access to partner with the trust, kind of like a self-directed IRA in some ways, and that you can form an LLC, partner with the trust, and you can go buy or build your own project or deal. You also have a third-party tax preparer that does a separate set of eyes on the numbers as well. How does this whole thing work? Well, great. Glad you asked. Okay. You're probably curious, how does this whole thing work? Well, it starts with an asset that's going to sell. And let's just say this is a $10 million asset. Well, if Peggy's going to sell this for 10 million and she lives in California, she's looking at probably a minimum 37%, maybe 40% with depreciation recapture. So on 10 million, she's going to pay about 4 million of tax. Well, instead of selling directly to the seller or to the buyer and paying that 4 million of tax, she can do an installment sale with the trust. So she's going to sell it to the trust on an installment. The trust is going to pay back in installments over time, and she's going to receive a promissory note. So she's going to do a 100% financing at the close of escrow to the trust. The trust immediately is going to sell it to the buyer for the same price that Peggy sold it to the trust for. So Peggy, if the trust bought it for 10 million and sold it for 10 million, guess what the gain is? It's 0. So there's no tax at the trust level. Now, Peggy, if you just received a promissory note back, 100% financing for 10 million, and we call it 8% interest rate, we'll put it on the note. If you haven't received anything at closing, guess how much you owe, and you haven't received anything, you owe 0. I mean, it's deferred. It's in a deferred state. So the full 10 million is in the 4 million is deferred. The full 10 million is in the trust. And that's what happens. Okay. The buyer takes title, they're gone. And essentially the trust owes you the 10 million. We'll make it a promissory note due in 10 years, balloon payment due in 10, 8% interest rate. Now, every 10 years, you can renew for 10 years. And renew for 10 years, renew for 10 years. You can pass it to the kids. The kids can step into your shoes on the DST 1.0 and continue the tax deferral. Okay. If you do the DST 2.0 outside your taxable estate, it eliminates the estate tax, and the kids get with the remainder of that. A little more technical, but it's going to eliminate the estate tax, and the kids can be the beneficiaries of that one. So here's the key. Step 1, you're going to build a team. Where there are no experts, the business plan will suffer. Another way to think about this is don't try this at home, right? Work with those that are experts in this. Okay, our track record, Capital Gains Tax Solutions, collectively have over 15 years of deferred sales trust experience. I spent 10,000 hours with the creator of the structure, 20 years of investment real estate experience. You can't afford to not have an expert in this. Our role is the trustee to help you execute the business plan, to make the deferred sales trust simple, okay, and to build a team to execute this. We've already talked about a little bit about what I've closed in the past, so we'll keep going here. The next step is just to craft a detailed DST business plan. And by the way, we do this all at no cost, no obligation. We work with you to do all of this. And these are some of the things: wealth analysis, financial projections, investing in the right time, value add opportunities, diversification. Okay. The biggest thing is, how can you achieve the DST business plan? Well, first is education, what you're doing right now, resources, the best-selling book, which we have. But we also bring in certified financial planners. We're bringing teams like the Nest Egg Builder, right? And we're bringing groups to help to bring like a journey to kind of like a mini family office on this exit. You also have access to exclusive deals and opportunities. But the biggest thing is you have ongoing support in the community around you, with my clients, with myself, with my team at live events, to be a part of all of this. Okay. And so what's the plan? We're going to execute on the business plan once we've clarified all of that. And we're going to set the promissory note somewhere between 6 and 9%. The payments are going to start. Typically, you can go immediately, but some people start them within 100, 150 days. We're going to monitor the investment performance and see how it's doing versus the promissory note. Okay. We do have to go make the investments to get the return on the capital. Let's fix my camera so it's kind of bugging out a little bit there. I'm trying to get it to focus. Okay. What's the annual cost? It's about 1.5 to 2% on a recurring basis on the net proceeds. That's paid to the trustee, and that also includes the financial advisor if there's one there. You don't have to do a financial advisor. If you want to go into real estate, we can just do that. We need to keep some liquidity. But let's say you put, about $1 million into the trust. It's going to be about $15,000 to $20,000 on a recurring basis. We do have some fee breaks as it goes higher, but that's a general rule of thumb. Now, there's also a one-time fee to the tax attorney. It's 1.5% on the first million and 1.25 on anything above that. So if it was $1 million sale, it'd be a $15,000 one-time fee. That includes the lifetime audit defense. There's the bookkeeping fee and everything. But we typically return about 6, 7, 8, or 9% compounding net of any recurring fees over any 10-year period of time. Okay. So if 10 million goes in, we can typically return about $800,000 a year, that just net of fees. Okay. Biggest thing is how to make the DST an investment and not an expense. We don't have time to go through all this, but here's a slide for that. Let's talk about some deal stories. This is so important. This is Nick and Jeannie Katzer. They owned and managed real estate and mobile home parks, multifamily properties, businesses. They sold 2 exits, 11 million exits from a business and real estate out of Colorado. And the biggest thing is they've done hundreds of transactions with real estate, right? And they were looking for a solution that gave them the flexibility to pass the legacy to the next generation while still deferring the capital gains tax and being able to diversify. Now, they love to invest in a passive real estate group that I brought to them that was straight. It's been a huge win. And essentially, it's unlocked an incredible amount of freedom, time, and energy for them to enjoy their time with their family, providing the peace of mind that their legacy and wealth would be well managed and preserved for generations to come. So this is just one of our few of our clients. Here are a few other ones as well. And these guys, by the way, have videos on YouTube. So you can go to my YouTube channel if you like, Capital Gains Tax Solutions. You can hear them tell their story themselves. But Shay sold a business, multi-million-dollar business. He was an entrepreneur. He partnered with the trust. Dave did a $7.6 million apartment complex in Colorado. David has done over 6 exits, including over $120 million of apartments exited. He used his GP positions. Okay. And you can hear his entire story on YouTube. This is one of my favorite ones, though. It's Warren and Catherine. They have 2 twin daughters a little bit later in life. I helped them not only list and sell their apartment complex, but do the Deferred Sales Trust. Their NOI went from 120 to 190, an increase of about 63% in cash on cash return. But the biggest thing, they wanted more time with their daughters. Less of time for Warren driving back and forth in traffic. Less time for having to deal with the toilets, trash, and the termites, right? Less time to have to deal with the rent control and all of the challenges that come with owning real estate in California. This is Ron. He and his wife sold an Airbnb property in Colorado. This is Dave. We already talked about him. This is Skeptical Steve. If you're a skeptic, I'm glad you should talk with Steve. He's a good friend of mine. We call him Skeptical Steve. He grew up in a real estate family just doing 1031s in Napa. They've owned over $30 million in apartment complex with his parents, and he did it for his own sale. We saved a 1031 exchange for him. This is Shay. We already talked about him. And the list goes on and on and on. Saratoga, Denver, Cupertino, San Diego, Sacramento, Monterey, Airbnb properties, single family homes, and rentals. Bitcoin, we've done over $13.5 million of Bitcoin sales. That is, let me go back to this so you can see my screen still. Primary home sales, $8 million deal in Palo Alto. Business sales, a billboard company, $17 million in Sacramento. Most of our deals are done in Sacramento. Real quick on our story. We launched our company in 2017, although I've been working with the strategy since 2009. We launched our podcast, which changed everything for us because we had a chance to go national. We did the first Bitcoin exit in DST history, August of 2021. We hit the best-selling book with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank in our book, which is cool. We did our first summit. Long story short, we are here and we are just growing rapidly. We hear some of our values, and we're running off our time here, so I'm just going to jam through. You can pick up the best-selling book on Amazon, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. You can also check out our two products here, the best 1031 exit plan, which gives you a regular 1031, a deferred sales trust, and or a Delaware statutory trust execution on that. And as well, we have the best crypto exit plan, which helps you to exit crypto and invest into real estate or other assets. And those are some of the people in the book, like Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, pretty cool. And so ultimately, we're wrapping up right now. What matters most to you? And that's the most important question to ask yourself. What would be the ideal way for you to have a wealth plan that give you tax flow, debt flow, cash flow, legacy, and timing on your side? If you use the DST as it grows, communication and collaboration become more and more important. So I want you to stay up to date on our YouTube channel so that you can hear deal stories and you get tactical ways to execute this by just going to Capital Gains Tax Solutions on our YouTube channel, or just go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to get started. Again, you need $1 million net proceeds and $1 million gain to qualify. So make sure it's a big enough transaction, and then you can schedule a time with myself or one of my team members. With that, I will pass it back to Peggy.
Well, what is your minimum?
Yeah, minimum is $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain. So per transaction, $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain. Now, if you said, Brett, I've had one at 500 and one at 700, can I combine the two? Sure. Right? We can combine the two, but we don't want, hey, I've got 25 houses that'll sell for 1.8 million. That's not a good fit. Unless you're going to sell them all at once to one buyer and package it into one escrow, then we could probably work with that.
Okay. And then another question I have is, how does my trust attorney, this is for Mark, how does my trust attorney work with this?
Yeah, great question. So there's three types of trust. There's an irrevocable, there's a revocable, and there's business trust. This is a complex business trust. So you still have your big living trust, right? That's what holds, basically it's going to help hold the assets when you die to pass it properly to the next generation, right? Without having to have probate, okay? So the promissory note is the asset you own. So in your scenario, let's say it was a $10 million deal, Peggy. That's the asset you own, is that $10 million promissory note. That promissory note is going to go inside of the big living trust. Okay. And then however you want that to your kids to step into your shoes, they step into your shoes, or whoever you want that to go to, right? The deferred sales trust is this little tiny guy outside that just owes you the money. Okay. The promissory note is the asset that goes into the big living trust. Can I answer the question?
So how does a DST compare to a spendthrift trust? Is there any difference? Because that's also a irrevocable complex trust.
Yeah, that's a big question, right? So here's what I would ask for when you're looking at anything: the deferred sales trust, the spendthrift trust, the magic trust, right? There's 7 major questions you want to ask of everybody. Number 1, how many have you done? Like whoever's bringing this spendthrift trust, right? Because I get people that approach me, they're like, "Hey, when you sell the spendthrift trust?" I'm like, "Well, how many have you done?" And they go, well, someone else did them." Okay, well, who's that person? Okay. Number 2, of the ones that have been done, how many have been audited? Of the ones that have been audited, what was the outcome of the audit? Of the ones that have been audited, who paid for the audit?
Yeah, who paid? That's
right. Yeah, who paid for the audit? And is there lifetime audit defense provided? Right. So
lifetime what?
A lifetime audit defense provided, right?
Oh, defense.
Yeah. And so whenever we've gone down that route, like there was one that was around with another one that just got blown up in IRS court, and it's on the IRS watch list. It's on the dirty dozen. And so we just stay away. We stay in our lane. Okay. So, but if you can find someone that's done thousands of closes, has lifetime audit defense, and has the perfect legal track record of the IRS, and that's what the deferred sales trust. And so we really just stay in our lane. I have heard of it, but when we come up against it, most of the time those things just kind of fall away really fast, Peggy, quickly because of those questions. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, and they're expensive to do, and it's just a postponement. It's not avoiding taxes, just like what you're doing. It's not avoiding taxes. It's just postponing them till later.
Let's clarify. So we can defer capital gains taxes, which is a postponement, correct? Right. But most of our clients will set that 10 million and they'll never dip into the principal. They'll just live off the interest, and their kids will just live off the interest. Okay. Right. So that 10 million just stays in the trust, and it produces, let's say, $800,000 for your lifetime and your kid's lifetime and their kid's lifetime, and it just keeps going. Okay, so that's number one. But it is still postponed and it's still deferral. On the other side, we can also, on the DST 2.0, we can eliminate the estate tax. So we just kill the estate tax. We get it out forever. So let's do a scenario. Let's say, Peggy, you're worth $112 million.
That'd be nice.
That'd be pretty cool, right? And I don't know if you're married or single. Let's say you're married. Okay. If you're married, that 12 million would be basically exempt. It's basically what we think it's going to be, 12 to 14 in 2026. Okay. Well, people think, oh, if I can just do the 1031, I get a stepped up basis and I'm tax free. And they dance and they go, yeah, tax free. Well, you're only capital gains tax free. Your kids are. Okay. But the estate tax, you're going to get hammered with a 40% estate tax. Okay. So they would take 40 million of that 100 million, because you take, let's say 112 and 12 million is the exemption, 100's left over. So it's 40 million. Okay. So what do we want to do? We want to eliminate that estate tax. So what do? You sell the let's say $112 million multifamily portfolio that you have while you're still alive. And we move it into a DST plus, it's a 2.0. And now we've eliminated the estate tax. Now we've deferred the capital gains tax. We've eliminated the estate tax. So watch this. Over your lifetime, you're going to pay partial interest, partial principal. Partial interest, partial principal. And if you're married, so your husband, okay? And you'll have a life expectancy that's set by these IRS tables. And so you'll pay partial interest, partial capital gains tax. Okay? It's a big number based upon that $112 million. And it's just going to come out and it's just going to pay you. Let's say you live 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it's going to keep paying you. But let's say we were able to out earn what it's paying you, right? Now, when you die and your husband dies, guess what happens? The kids, the beneficiaries of this trust, inherit capital gains tax-free and estate tax-free.
Right.
Okay. There is no charity required. Not that anything against charity, but you can give to charity still with this. There's no life insurance required. And there was no gifting required. So I wanted to just clarify that. That's the DST 2.0. We are going to eliminate the estate tax. We're going to defer the capital gains tax while you're alive and your husband's alive, but the children will receive it capital gains tax free. Now you'll pay capital gains tax during your lifetime.
Sure.
Now the 1.0, it's always deferral. It's inside of the taxable estate. Okay. And the kids can step into your shoes and continue the deferral. Okay. We use both depending on your circumstance, depending on your net worth. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yep. To me, it does. I don't know if it does to anybody else. So does anybody have any more questions? There's a place in the chat somewhere, reactions, where you could put your hand up if you have. Oh,
I can throw some objections out too that people are probably thinking. There's 3 major ones. And if you like, I can throw it out. And I can do the juggle with them. It looks like Jonah has a question. Her hand's raised.
Oh, Jonna, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. So I am in my parents are in a state that has inheritance tax, and I'm in a state that has state estate tax with a relatively low threshold.
Yeah.
So how are those? Are you familiar with the state estate tax, and how are those addressed?
Yeah. So let's first see if you have a qualifying, or they have a qualifying. Do they at least have a net worth that's greater than 14 million married, or 6 million single, or 7 million single? Are they about, or?
No, but it's a theoretical question, right? It
Okay.
is, how does it handle inheritance tax, state inheritance tax? How does it handle state estate tax?
Let's just do it theoretical. Okay. So Peggy has $112 million, $114 million net worth. She's married and she's in a state that has estate tax. We're going to get it outside of the taxable estate. Therefore, there's no state estate tax and there's no federal estate tax. It's going to be eliminated forever the moment she sells it and moves into the Deferred Sales Trust Plus. It's outside the taxable estate. So there's nothing for the state to assess because it's outside of the taxable estate. So there's maybe another rule to your too. You can either have a stepped up basis or you can have it outside the taxable estate, but you can't have both. Once it's outside the taxable estate, there's no state estate tax because there's nothing's outside your state. It's also a federal estate tax because it's outside of the taxable estate. Does that make sense?
And then what about inheritance tax? Is it not an inheritance because you're just taking over the trust?
Yeah. So when you say inheritance tax, I think death tax or estate tax. Isn't that what you mean by that?
No, New Jersey has an inheritance tax.
I'd have to see that on a one-on-one basis, but my instinct is they wouldn't apply. Yeah, it would not apply because they're not inheriting anything. I mean, they're the beneficiaries of the trust, but it's just different. I don't think it would apply, but I'd have to take it off on a one-on-one basis for that New Jersey deal. Yeah.
Okay, and then I guess on the objection side, the piece on my gut is in an article this week about the IRS is targeting tax cheats who play shell games, right? Is what happens if they decide to go after these estate right? Because we've got a huge tax obligation. The federal government plans on paying that through our tax obligations, and now we're playing these shell games, moving them into trust. So that would be one of my objections. What happens if the law changes and these become taxable?
All right, so we're at the premise, right? So it's not a shell game because we're not moving it into it. You're actually selling it. Right? You're selling it to the trust, and the trust is issuing you a promissory note. Okay, so it's a legit sale. Let's back up a little bit with a little history too. IRC 453, which is known as a seller carryback, right? That's how we know those, where we as sellers can become the bank for the buyer. Very common. Everyone knows seller carryback. It was kind of basically enacted during the Depression years, right? When what happened? The banks seized up and everything stopped, right? And they said, wow, we've got to keep incentivizing people to do deals and sell businesses in real estate. Why don't we let them defer the tax, finance the buyer, let the buyer come in and build the business or build the real estate, right? So that's the foundation. By the way, that's what the 1031 is also founded on as well, okay? So the study of macroeconomics shows that when you can't force people to sell, right? But you can tax incentivize them to do things like IRAs and 401ks, right? You can't force people to save for retirement, but if you would tax incentivize them. So we actually believe that the installment sale is foundational to basically the American financial system, okay? Because it gives the people the ability to be the bank, okay? And so it has not, like the 1031 exchange, for example, has been under fire for the last 10 years, right? People wanting to eliminate it or get rid of it or limit it, and it has been limited, to certain things now, just real estate. In fact, Biden has a proposal right now to limit it to $1 million gain or 500,000 single and married $1 million. Basically, eliminates the 1031. Right. He also has a proposal to get rid of the stepped up basis. He also has a proposal to increase capital gains tax from 20 to 44% federally. Right. So these are all proposals. But the point is the Deferred Sales Trust and the legal part of it, the IRC 453, it goes back nearly 100 years and it's not even on the radar. It's not even on the docket. Okay. So it is a sale. It is an installment sale. We've had over 29 audits, state, federal promoter audits. Never been on a watch list, never been an IRS dirty dozen. We've had literally zero changes on all of the audits. In fact, one of the audits is a $120 million deal in California. No change, no findings. Perfect. Like, what are the odds that me, Peggy, Ted, Ethan, Mark, and Jonah, we have an audit on our tax return and they don't find one single change? They're going to find something. We've never had a change. So let me give you another way to think about this too. We've had private letter rulings, okay? A private letter ruling. It's never been an IRS court. Part of why we think they haven't taken us to court is because I think they don't think they're going to win. And if they don't win, then it's basically all of the secrets are out, which we don't want to happen either, right? We want it, it's proprietary. We don't want people to abuse it. But this goes back, again, close to 30 years. I'll give you one other story on this. There's a gentleman named David Young, and we may or may not know who David Young is, but you guys may know who Bill Gross is. Have you heard of Bill Gross? Bill Gross and David Young built PIMCO with 5 other guys from 80 billion to 1.2 trillion about 20 years ago. Now, these are some of the smartest financial minds in the world, okay? And they manage some of the biggest capital in the world, mostly through bonds, right? Bonds investing. Now, you can imagine David gets approached with a lot of people wanting him to sell their thing, wanting to sell their DST or their tax thing to all of their clients, right? He gets approached with, this is why this is all great. You should just use it. Well, let's just say David is skeptical over all the years because that's what he does. He goes, I don't want the offshore, all this stuff, all this shell game, all these, moves. He goes, most of it doesn't pass the smell test. They don't even touch it. He says away from it. We said, David, it's different. This is different. This is none of that. He goes, okay, I'll keep an open mind and I'll look at it. And this is about 6.5 years ago. His legal team himself, they signed the NDAs, and they don't do a 2-day due diligence or a 2-week or a 2-month. They do 2 years of deep due diligence, 2 years. They fly back and they meet with the creator of the structure on a whiteboard. They map everything out. They sign the NDAs. They did like a 2-day DST mini summit. And they came through with 2 conclusions after that. Number one, that person is the smartest person I've ever met. And I can say he is the smartest person I've ever met. Number 2, we were all in. We were all in. And they are a part of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions Inner Circle. And they will manage capital for deferred sales trust clients. And so what I asked to everybody who's a skeptic, and you should be, because most of these are nonsense. They don't work. They don't have the audit defense. They don't have the track record. They haven't been through the fire, right? They don't have the people to back it up or execute it. And they are nonsense. Most of them are. But here's why David said, look, based upon everything we found, we're all in. If it's good enough for David Young and his legal team, who manages some of the biggest wealth in the world, is in the business for 30 years, after 2 years of due diligence, is it good enough for me, Peggy, Eugene, Mark, Ethan, Jonah, right? That's the question you have to ask. And so the local CPA or even the local tax attorney who's never heard of it or hasn't looked to sign the NDAs, hasn't done the due diligence, hasn't done the tough questions, just on the outset thinks there's holes in it and should be cautious. Okay, we'll keep closing deals, right? We'll keep helping all of the thousands of people, right? And we have people like David Young who can manage capital and who've looked at it. Those are some of the things that we count on, and that gives me confidence. I can go on story after story after story of top tax attorneys, CPAs, financial advisors that at first were skeptical, but then they showed up and signed the NDA and they did their homework and they've joined us and they keep joining us, right? Does that help you hopefully give you confidence in what I'm saying here?
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Eugene.
Hey, Eugene, how's it going?
Okay, so I've got a few apartment buildings that we're about to sell, and I got approached by a company named Brandt Hickey because we were looking at using the 1031. I'm also a realtor, so I got a lot of clients, and I understand the whole problem with 1031s. So through Brandt Hickey, we're going to do, when we sell, we're going to use an installment sale to do it through Brandt Hickey. I got on the call a little bit late, so my question is, do you partner with a company like that, or do I have to have a separate discussion with you to understand? Because when I came on, I heard the word installment sale, and I
Got his
We can work
attention.
through the live scenario. I think everyone would enjoy like a live deal. So what's the average sale? What's the thing you're going to sell it for? What do you think you're going to sell the property for?
has about 3 properties, about 8 million.
Okay, excellent. And what's the debt?
There's no debt.
Okay, great. And then what's the adjusted basis?
We bought it for 3,
Okay. Did you do any cost seg or just straight line depreciation?
straight line.
Okay. And do you own it with any other partners or?
No,
Okay. And then is it these 3 properties, are they owned by like a LLC and each have their own LLC?
they are, well, they are inside trust, land trust. LLC, so LLC is inside of land trust.
Okay, perfect. Okay. And what's the major motivation for selling?
Going to use the cash for something else.
Okay. What state are you in or the property's in?
One's in Illinois, one in Indiana, 2 in Illinois, and 1 in Indiana.
Okay. So Illinois is pretty high. I'm going to use just 30%. Okay. I'm going to take 8 million. You think the adjusted basis is 3 million, you said, so you have a $5 million gain. And then 30% would be about 1.5 million of tax. Is that what you're estimating too?
I haven't figured out the estimate. I haven't run numbers. I just know we're going to sell. We were thinking about using 1031, but then I got the installment sale guy from Brandt Hickey. So we
Yeah.
said, talk about that, and then I hear you talk about it. So
Yeah,
then
so I don't know who Brent Hickey is, and I don't know his installment sale. Like there's some we call them a little bit copycats out there, right? And they might call a little bit different, and they might be similar. I don't know how when you came on, but there's 7 questions to ask of us and anyone else. Number 1, Brent Hickey, how many have you done, right? Number 2, of the ones that you've done, how many have been audited? Number 3, who defended the audit? Number 4, what was the who paid for the audit? Number 5, how long they've been going on for. So these are just some things we can compare and contrast. The Deferred Sales Trust, thousands of closes, close to 30-year track record, over 29 no change IRS audits, lifetime audit defense, all of those things. So yeah, that would be one thing I would compare and contrast. If you're comparing it versus the 1031, I would say you would look at, just the overall cash on cash return, right? A lot
yeah, I
of
know
times,
how to do that. I'm just trying to figure out what's the difference between what you're doing and just a straight installment sale. That's
oh,
what.
okay. There we go. That's a better way to think about it. So
Yeah.
yeah, one thing you could do is you could finance the buyer, right? We believe that the traditional installment sale are great. However, they're limited. Okay. And they're limited because you're basically tying up your capital you're financing the buyer, and your capital is not liquid, not diversified, not an investment grade collateral. Right. And so let's do a scenario, right? He says, look, I'll give you $2 million down. Would you carry the 6 million or something like that? And you're like, okay, well, you get to defer on the 6, but it's typically going to be a 3 to 5 year window. They typically don't have prepay. They also, they typically will pay it off earlier. This always happens with people. But in the meantime, that's 6 million, and you might negotiate 5, 6, 7%. I don't know what you're going to negotiate. That's usually where it's at. But that we can go take that money and we can make much higher returns. You can go redeploy that capital into other deals that you want to do. You can also you can diversify that capital into other assets. So you literally get everything that you would want. You get diversification with ours, you get liquidity with ours, you get dollar cost averaging with ours. You're not having to potentially foreclose on that asset. That other 2 million he gives to you, you pay tax on as well.
Right.
So what we say is, like, clarify your cash flow, tax flow, and debt flow vision, right?
So
Like,
let me ask you a question, Brett. Sorry to interrupt, but so Eugene brings his 8 million to you.
Mhm.
He's going to tell you where he wants to diversify that 8 million. This guy still wants to buy the property. You're going to sell it back to this fella? Because that's how it sounded when you first talked about it. This guy still could buy the property. Can he buy it on a promissory note?
Yeah, we're not going to finance the Brent guy. So we're going to ask him to come with cash. We're going to ask him to come with a loan. We don't care how he's getting the money. We're going to ask Eugene, another way to put it, Eugene, would you rather finance this gentleman, or would you rather have it backed by Apple, Home Depot, Walmart, Google?
No, he wants to buy other real estate.
Yeah. And then the next, right. So that's one option. Or would you like to put it back into your own real estate deals at any timing with a new depreciation schedule? Right. Or like literally the next 16 to 18 months, or next 12 to 18 months, we think is going to be the best multifamily buying opportunity that we've ever seen, maybe in the last decade. Right. You're probably sensing that too. Right. This is going to be an amazing opportunity. So the last thing you want to do is have your capital all tied up with the old buyer, the old property. Right. Have him say, you bring cash, get loan. We don't care, but we're not financing you. Get the 8 million powder dry. Like, that would be devastating to me if you found a perfect deal that you want to buy. And so let's walk through how you would do that. So let's say
you could use the promissory note as a down payment. So that's not a problem. Problem is dividing up the promissory note if you need to. That could be a problem. And you still have the capital gain on the 2 million you have to pay.
Yes, let me clarify that, right? So let's just say, hypothetically, Eugene did 100% financing for the buyer. Not that you're doing that, Eugene, just say that. You have no capital to buy your next deal. Zero. It's all locked up in the old deal for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, right? The only thing you have is he doesn't pay you. You could foreclose on that. That's all you have. What I'm saying is have this 8 million in Charles Schwab earning 5% until you make a deal.
Yeah, I got to run, but I really want to compare what by the way, we're taking that 5 million we know exactly where we want to invest that 5 million in.
Okay.
It's not multifamily properties, by the way. But
Yeah.
when we get the video after, Peggy, when you send out the information afterwards, I'll get with him so I can do an apples to apples comparison against this other guy's proposal.
Happy to do it.
I've got to run.
Thank you, Eugene. All
Bye,
right.
Eugene. Thanks for coming.
Yep.
Yep.
Does that make sense, Peggy, what I was saying there? I want to make sure everyone caught that, right? Because once you finance the old buyer, your money's not liquid. It's not diversified. It's tied up, right? You don't have any
No, it's not
cash.
tied up. You can use it to buy the next property.
With the deferred sales trust, yes.
No,
Okay.
with the note. I got a note. Worth 5 or 7, 8 million, whatever it is. I could go
Okay.
buy the property and use that as the down payment. That note is like not quite like cash. So you
Okay,
have
so,
to
so
find
you're saying
somebody
that
that's
there are
willing.
banks that will cross-collateralize your note as the down payment. That's what you're saying?
They'll take the note. That
Okay.
is, you give them the note. I now assign my note to you because you've got the property I
I
want.
haven't seen that happen. I'm not saying it can't happen. I just have never seen it actually
Oh,
executed.
it happens all the time. I could introduce 100 people
Okay.
that have done it.
Okay, interesting.
Yep, no, I just in the 1031 world, exchange world, we exchange notes all the time. Notes are super
I'm
important.
still learning on that. I've never actually seen someone execute that. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but that would be really
No.
cool. Now, here's where I then counter to that. Okay. So Peggy, would you like the old depreciation schedule when you use that note as collateral to secure, or would you like a new one?
Yes, so those are all the things that are really important to look at. I'm not saying one thing over the other. What I'm saying is the same thing you would say. You have to look into every single thing. That's 7
Yes.
questions. You have to ask those. You have to, this is the retirement thing that I read, the trick that I
Yeah.
read today. You have to look, is this part of your retirement? What exactly are you going to do? Have you talked to your accountant? Have you talked to your
You know who I'd love to talk
all
to?
these things?
If you have somebody who's actually done that. I see what you're saying in theory. I would love to talk to like they did 1,000 of these this way, right? It would be interesting to see the case studies on that. Like that'd be really interesting. But I think Ted has a question.
Yes, Ted does. Question, right, Ted?
Yeah, it has to do with the estate tax issue. Um, if if the property is sold to the DST in exchange for a note that goes into to individual's living trust, isn't that subject to estate tax?
Yes, for the DST 1.0, and then we have the 2.0. So there's two different ones, and we kind of talked a little bit about both of them a little bit. So the 1.0 is a traditional installment sale with the trust based upon IRC 453, where the promissory note is the asset that goes inside of the living trust. Okay. And that one would be subject to estate tax. You're spot on, Ted. The kids could step into the shoes and continue capital gains tax deferral. But if it's over the limits for the estate tax exemption, they would pay state tax. Okay. So that's 1.0. Now the 2.0, the kids are actually the beneficiaries of the trust, which we don't put it inside of the living trust, right? Then we might have some provisions there that state, here's how I want certain things. In fact, I don't even know if you can really get provisions on that. I think it with the tax attorney, but that wouldn't necessarily need to be in the living trust. And that's outside the taxable estate. It's a different tax code. Okay. And the kids are the beneficiaries. And basically what happens is the note cancels upon the death and the remainders in there passes outside the taxable estate. So estate tax free to the beneficiaries and capital gains tax free because they've already been paying a lot of it over their lifetime. So that's the simple answer, Ted, for you. The tax attorney would absolutely give you probably a better answer, a more detailed reason why, but that's the outcome for both of these.
You got that, Ted?
So far, got to think about it.
Okay, think about it. So we are at the top of the hour. I would invite you back, Brett, to talk about those people and give examples of what they did and how they did it, because I think that might clarify a lot.
Yeah.
If you'd like to come back and do that, we would really enjoy. And then you and I can have this little head-to-head thing because that makes it so much more fun for me. I don't know about for you or not.
I would love that. Yes, I would love that. It would be so cool to figure out like how and actually not how, but like executing it. Like that's just so fascinating to me. I love that.
Great. Okay, good. I hope you come back again. And thank you everyone for being here. And we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.